Here's 5 things a producer and engineer must master to be nice in the studio. Let's get right to it. Number 1, you gotta work fast. So you have to be fast in a few ways. You gotta be super fast in the software that you work in. If it's Pro Tools, Ableton, Logic, you gotta know all your key commands, you gotta know the shortcuts. You gotta be able to edit like that. You gotta be able to set up new tracks. You gotta be a step ahead of the artist at all times. You gotta be able to execute your ideas and the artist's ideas without thinking about it or looking for how to do something. You also gotta be super fast at setting up for recordings. If the artist wants to record instruments in the session, you gotta know that ahead of time. You gotta set up all the mics, you gotta do all the cabling and all the routing, and you gotta set it up in software to record. So if I have a session with multiple musicians coming in, I communicate with the band exactly what instruments need to be recorded, and then I write myself an input sheet that has all the mics listed, all the pieces of gear I'll use, and all the routing to the software. Then I'll be in the studio before the band and the artist arrive, setting everything up, testing all the lines, making sure everything works and is good to go. Another way to work super fast is to be really tapped into the actual song that's being recorded. While the artists are working on the song, it helps to learn the song format and the arrangement. So when they ask you to go to the 4th bar of the bridge, you can find it immediately. On the software tip, if you want to run sessions in a big studio, you really have to know Pro Tools, because big studios are recording to Pro Tools. That's not to say Ableton and Logic aren't amazing production software, they are. For recording multiple instruments with multiple mics, you're going to be running Pro Tools in a big studio. Number 2, you have to be able to read the room. A lot of time in big sessions, there's a lot of personalities in the room. You might have the artist, the management team, the label, the producer, the engineer, some musicians. You got to be able to read the energy of a room and figure out what your role is going to be in that particular session. Some sessions are going to require you just to chill and kind of stay out of the way and let the session unfold. Let the other personalities in the room lead the way. And then other sessions are actually going to need your help to step up to the plate to help guide the whole thing and keep it on track. It takes a bit of wisdom to know the difference between those 2 types of sessions. So my starting point in sessions is always to lay low and get a feel for the personalities in the room and the different skills of all the people who are involved. And then I can see where my personal skills are needed or maybe not needed. Read the room. There's nothing worse in a session than someone who can't read the room, who oversteps a bound and tries to impose something that disrupts the entire energy and the creative flow of the session. Number 3 is vocal production. Vocal production comes in 2 forms. One is coaching vocalists and working directly with the singers or rappers. The other way is to be savvy in software where you can edit, tune, align, and polish vocals in the DAW. Coaching a vocalist in the studio is very much an art. You got to be able to listen to an artist in the present tense and feel out how well their performance today stacks up against their best performance, their best potential. And then you have to be able to communicate your ideas to the artist in a way that is encouraging and not disruptive. A big part of vocal production is understanding when you actually have the takes you need and how to edit them together between multiple performances. And you got to be able to tune vocals with auto-tune and Melodyne. I feel like I'm giving people like 50 things they have to know how to do, not 5, but that's okay. Number 4 is mixing. The more you learn about mixing, the better it makes you as a producer and an engineer. Mixing teaches you where there is space in a production, where there's open space to place an instrument or place a part. At the very least, you have to be able to make a rough mix to send the artist home with a good version of the song after the recording session. The better you are at completing a mix, the better it's going to represent your production and your recording. Mixing is going to allow you to make anything sound better, be it any sort of production sound or any recorded sound. You'll be able to make your sounds more hi-fi and more polished and more professional. And it also opens the door for opportunities to get more work as a mixing engineer. Number 5 is you got to be super organized. Having your sessions really organized helps you work fast. It also sends a signal to everyone you're working with that you have your shit together. The biggest part of organization is file management. As the producer or engineer, you're probably the one responsible for the files of all the recordings. This is actually a really big responsibility if it's a high-stakes project with a big budget or a big artist, or if there's been a ton of time spent on the project. If you lose track of files, you're going to be wasting people's time and money, and you probably won't get hired again. So for me, I keep sessions backed up on 3 different hard drives in 3 different locations. This way, there's no way I can lose track of someone's song, even if they need it 5 years from now. Being organized also means keeping the space that you work in to be really clean and inviting. Inviting spaces encourage creativity, and it's going to make people want to be in the room with you and want to work with you. Comment any video ideas you'd like to see from me, and follow me at Love Science Music on all socials. Subscribe for more amazing music content. Boom.